Movie thoughts. The Green Room is a psychological, claustrophobic thriller horror film, starring Patrick Stewart as the head of a neo-Nazi cult somewhere in America. I can't remember exactly where it's placed, but with the sign of the cornfields and the wide fields and stuff at the beginning, I'm guessing it's somewhere central to South America. We follow the path of a band who are trying very desperately to get gigs. Unfortunately, this band, they are made up of idiots. They would do things that normal people would think, yeah, that's not smart. Like, literally, the first scene of the movie is their van in the middle of a field, and they've all fallen asleep at the wheel while driving, probably intoxicated, and then they just wake up and said, oh, it happened again, sort of thing, and you're just like, yeah, these guys are idiots. So they are struggling to get money for their up-and-coming band. I can't remember what it was called. I actually don't really care. And they end up getting this gig at a neo-Nazi cult operation, a club out in the middle of literally nowhere, full of neo-Nazis. And they do this gig, and it goes really well. The first half an hour of this film is made up of a lot of really nice-looking shots, and you're just like, this is actually really good. The director here, and I can't remember the director's name, I apologize, but I don't recognize it. I don't think he's done anything else. The director has done some really nice shots, and they're almost textbook shots. So it's like he's obviously came out of studying film and media and things like that, and he's got all of these tricks and ideas for his first feature film. It might not be his first feature film, I'm not sure, but I had that impression that it was his first feature film with a budget, or a reasonably large budget, probably a small one as well. If they had Patrick Stewart, then they're going to have a bit of a budget, I would imagine. And he does a lot of really great shots, and he sort of doesn't really tell much of a story with the shots, and it almost feels like he's put those in just to show his prowess of a director, and it's like his portfolio of what he can do to get other films produced, like to become a director on other films, and his cinematography. But I mean, I'm okay with that. That's how you start. It's fine. I don't mind that. I actually really enjoyed watching these shots and stuff from a cinematographer's point of view. I really enjoyed that. It actually ends up being a very claustrophobic and actually quite sinister plot. The band get trapped inside a room, and it is after a murder that they know that the people who run the club have instigated, and it is their constant fight and their battle to try and escape, and they are in the knowledge that they possibly might not get out alive, and as the night progresses, their dire circumstances increase. Now, where this story falls short is in the characters of the band. You really generally don't care for them because they are idiots. Like, they have no personality traits. They are literally just there to be the victims of a horror film. And for me, that's where horror films go wrong, especially with this sort of film. This is a psychological thriller, so you want to feel for the characters that are put in this tight spot. And if they had done that really well and got me feeling for those characters, I would have loved this film. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it. I actually did at time feel real genuine chills of tense fear, and I was consumed by the tension of some of the levels, and so it kind of all is worth it, I guess. I think that Patrick Stewart himself, he sort of half phoned it in, thinking back upon it. Like, at the time, I was like, yeah, he's, like, really sinister and he knows things, but I think that's more my fanboyism for Patrick Stewart, and I love Patrick Stewart. He is, like, my god. He really is. Like, when I was a kid, I was looked up to Patrick Stewart as a thespian, as a film actor, television, any sort of acting I love, like, just love watching him. Like, on stage, he is just brilliant, and he captures a role, and I don't think he quite captured this role. There were moments where he was really sinister and creepy, and he really, like, pried on our protagonists. I don't want to call them protagonists, I don't really care about them, but he really pried on their fears, and had this reassuring tone, going through one of the scenes, and it's really reassuring, and he convinces them to do something that is really stupid. These characters, they shouldn't do this. But they do it, they give something away, they have an advantage and they give it away, and then after they've given it away, he comes right up to the door and he says, "It won't be long now." And it's just like, wow, that was a really great scene, and I think that was one of the only really great scenes that Patrick Stewart had. The rest did feel a little bit phoned in, unfortunately. I really enjoyed a lot of the psychological claustrophobia. But I do feel because it's a horror film, they felt the need to get as much gore in as possible. Well, actually not as much gore, but they had about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 shots of really grossy, gory scenes that felt a little bit out of place. And I guess it kind of makes sense because from the point of the neo-Nazism, they're extremists and they think that this way is the right way, but I think that they could have implied some more instead of just straight up showing the gore, and that kind of, it grossed me out rather than freaked me out, and I'd rather be freaked out with like this sort of psychological thriller. And because they have these gore things, it feels more like a horror film than it does a really intense thriller. And I think that if they'd have gone the really intense thriller, like the 10 Cloverfield Lane route, this could have been a really, really great film, but it falls short. And there are a lot of beats where it just misses it slightly. But then it's an indie film with a low budget and an unknown cast and an unknown director, so it's not going to be the greatest film of all time. We can't have so many Snowpiercers. Like, there's only one, like, Snowpiercer did that really well, but then those are my general thoughts. Overall, I do think that they could have hit more on the psychological thriller, claustrophobia, caught in a room. However, I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed my time, and this is actually the second time I've tried to sit down and talk about my feelings about it, because the first time I got in from the cinema and it was like 1 a.m. last night, and I was just like, I really need to talk about this, and I talked about it, and I listened back to it this morning, and I was just like, actually, that doesn't make sense. Like, I repeated myself, and I was just getting really over the top with it. So it's really good because I'm overly thinking about it. So there we go. Out of 10, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 pretty much because it did fall short in places. It could have hit that 8 or maybe even a 9 if it had hit the points that I want from a psychological thriller, but instead I think it was going in a slightly different angle. Nevertheless, a really great and fun film that if you want to go and check it out. I think it's pretty much on its last night for me. So I wouldn't have had any other chance to see it. That's why I wanted to go and see it. Also because it has Patrick Stewart in it, and I have a massive man crush on Patrick Stewart because he is a god. Anyway, if you like this, please let me know in the comments down below and be like, hey, you did a good job, or hey, you did a bad job, or why the fuck are you doing a weird indie film that nobody's gonna see? And I'll be like, because I saw it and I really enjoyed it and I wanted to talk about it. There you go. Anyway, guys, until next time.